Okay, I'll be very honest. I did not think that I'd be doing an entire episode of Delulu until when I was planning to record this, because that's just never really been my thing. But honestly, for the sake of what I need to discuss, it does involve quite a bit of Delulu, and I don't think it'll be the Solulu, at least not in its entirety. Even then, getting to the Solulu part is going to be quite an uphill task, even on a social level. But I do think that at least hypothetically it may be possible. But, anyways, before I can get to the Solulu part, which is basically at the end, I need to begin. And where are my manners? I should have started with an intro. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is Sir Denver B. This is a shorter, less edity, no instrumentally version of the podcast where I basically air out a topic and give my views on it, basically discuss it for a few minutes, all so that I can leave you with something to think about while I'm on break, because usually these episodes come because I'm on break. And for this particular episode, I was kind of thinking about something that was said on the podcast, but not by me. This is actually from one of the collab episodes, and it actually is based off of something that Wesley Jeff, or Wes, said when we were busy doing the episode. Because I remember there was a point in time when I asked him how the relationship content, or at least the content that he's been doing on TikTok, has affected him, or at least how those stories have reshaped his view of relationships today. And the answer that he gave, or at least one of, if not the main answer that he gave, which, also ended up on one of the reels, was how he spoke on the fact that it's basically taught him that for him to be in a relationship or to get into anything romantic or necessarily be in love, he has to be a little bit delulu, which was an interesting point. And essentially, it taught him that for you to be in love, you need a little bit of delusion in your life, which I found to be quite interesting. And that was mainly because, to some degree, I had actually noticed the same thing. Now, not too long ago, I had actually stumbled across a particularly interesting Reddit post on one of the Kenyan Reddit pages where a woman was actually talking about how Kenyan men aren't that attractive in terms of their character because they aren't very romantic. And a lot of women were siding with her and were busy talking about how a lot of Kenyan men nowadays are, not romantic at all. And it seems like a lot of them aren't even trying to get into a relationship with you. A lot of them seem to just want to sleep with you. And even then, they're still not trying to put in any effort into being romantic. And while it doesn't seem like a particularly interesting phenomenon, it also did kind of hit me that nowadays you rarely ever hear of guys busy talking about, wanting to be romantic to their babes. Like, I haven't heard a guy brag about what kind of romantic things he's done for his babe or to his babe in like years. Like, personally speaking, I just haven't heard, guys talking about that for quite a number of years. And it was something that did kind of hit me as like, oh, so this might actually be a thing that's been happening, but either it's been amped up now or it's something that just started happening not too long ago. But now the question that I asked myself was, why? And the more I thought about it, the more I was thinking about the entire thing, where he spoke of how you need to be a little bit delusional at the very least for you to be in love, or at least for him to be in love. And let me just get the clip and I just place it here so that, for those that haven't listened to the episode, of which you should listen to the entire thing, can finally get a chance. So I will paste the link to that episode below, but let me just play the clip here.
So I've learned for me personally, to be in love and to be in relationships, I have to be a bit delusional and detached from social media.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
How special do you think you are that the person around you is not doing the same things you read every day?
Okay. I just needed to post up that piece of the clip, not necessarily the entire thing or like a huge portion, but, there it is. So I kind of asked myself why it is that Kenyan men, as a lot of Kenyan women have said, aren't that romantic or aren't even romantic anymore. And the more I thought about it, the more I started thinking that maybe guys might be delulu, or guys might choose to be quote unquote realistic, but essentially choose the opposite side of being like, delulu for love. And they essentially choose to see a lot of cynicism or pessimism whenever it comes to a lot of the women. And what I basically coined up was this idea that a lot of Kenyan men might actually be exercising delusional cynicism, if not delusional pessimism. I'd like to go with the cynicism part just because I don't think it's really negative per se. It's mostly this idea of, this is reality, not necessarily like, let me go for the most negative thought process. And the reason I say this is because cynicism is essentially being driven by pure self-interest. And I feel like a lot of Kenyan men have seen, had, and or experienced some situation where a babe has basically forsaken whatever the guy's feelings are, or just hasn't really given much of a shit, and has gone for something that has seemed like their own personal benefit. So whether that's infidelity, so like she cheated on the guy, or dropping the guy for a guy with more money, or getting turned down for a guy with either more money or who's better looking or who has a bigger dick or some shit like that. And essentially that idea of delusional cynicism kind of was being birthed like that. And when I kind of thought about it, it seemed to make more sense, because if you view a woman you'd like to be with as purely cynical and driven by like self-interest, then the likelihood of you approaching her, if you're not like at the absolute top of your field in whichever respects you feel are the most important, then for the most part you'll think that you'll just get dropped for some guy that's doing better than you. So I can get why it made a lot of sense for a lot of guys. So once I figured out the why, the next thing I asked myself was, where could it have possibly started from? And at first I kind of tried to track it back to something more recent, but I feel like this is something that maybe might have started from even further back. As far back as like when women basically started withdrawing a lot of the more hospitable treatment that they used to give guys back in the day. Although we probably started giving or experiencing a lot more of this delusional cynicism the moment women started making it seem like it's a bad thing to be hospitable to a guy. So like things like being the understanding girlfriend, which sounds like a good thing up until you look it up on places like TikTok. Things like decenter men, situations where babes would basically just go and enjoy themselves at the guy's expense. So like the whole, he thinks he's a player, but I'm the coach. Like situations like that now started to kind of get a lot of guys into this bind where it's like you put all of this effort into this babe and she's giving you less than bare minimum, or, bare minimum at best. And then at the end of it, you'll still be treated like shit after putting in all of this effort. Well, there's another guy that may be giving less, that may look like he has more, or that may look better, and is getting all of this shit for free. And as a result, it kind of started pushing guys to this point where it's like, you know what, there's another guy that's getting this shit for free. There's another guy that's getting this shit for free. And I believe that once we got to that level, we now started getting to the point where it's not that we'd experienced it, we just had the mindset that there's another guy that could give better. So there's little to no reason for you to really put effort into trying to be romantic towards this babe. And essentially, men now started using delusional cynicism to basically, quote unquote, de-pedestalize women so that they don't go above and beyond, only to get hurt and humiliated in the process. Let me give you an example. Previously, you are interested in this babe. She's very beautiful, very good looking, gorgeous body and everything. And you go out there, you put in the effort, you hit on this babe and you offer to take her out on a date. You take her out on a date here and there, you pay for everything, you help her out when it comes to stuff regarding her place, whether it's like doing maybe a little shopping, maybe it's buying her something nice. And you basically are putting in all of this resource. You're investing emotionally and you're also investing financially into this babe. And it was for the sole purpose of bagging this babe so that, whether you're smashing or whether you're going to get into a relationship and be smashing, or you're going to bag her, get into a relationship, get married and be smashing the babe. Like, your reasons were fairly straightforward like that. But then now you move to this point where as a guy, you look at this very fine looking babe and it's like, this babe is beautiful and gorgeous and everything, great body, great looks and all. But if I see her as this beautiful, then best believe a bunch of other dudes are as well. And a bunch of these other dudes have a ton of resources, or just have way more resources than I do, or they're better looking than I do. So instead of me going to put in the effort trying to be romantic, trying to bag this babe, while there's other guys that are much better off than I am, and she'll probably just end up cheating on me with those guys, why not just bang the babe or find an in with this shorty, where I can just be laying pipe? Because why the hell would I want to go up against all of these other guys who are probably doing better, or be in a situation where I'm trying to bag this babe and so is another guy that is doing way better than I am, or bag the babe and get cheated on with a dude that is doing way better than I am. And as such, you essentially create a mental picture where you depedestalize this woman, and it's like, this babe is just like every other, where some niggas just going to pick up this shorty and smash her for way less. So why the hell should I go and put in effort? And essentially, that creates the unromantic Kenyan man, at least for a lot of guys right now. And the reason behind creating this type of mindset for a lot of guys is, when guys are in love, by the way, like, they view the woman that they're in love with almost as the end-all be-all. In that, yes, she might have taken dick from other guys, but I'm not thinking about all those other dicks. Like, I'm just looking at this babe and I just want to be with her. She's like the finest thing on planet Earth. Okay, not necessarily on planet Earth, but she's like one of the finest things ever. And you would want to, give and nurture and provide for this babe and, like, keep her safe and do all sorts of things for her to make her life more comfortable and better. Like, when a guy is in love and he puts in a ton of effort into making such a thing happen, he would wish that, either it gets reciprocated, or at least the babe is appreciative and stays faithful to him. But now the problem is, there's a lot of guys who did that, who've done that, and there's a lot of stories online of guys who've done that, and it's backfired on them, in that the babe is getting railed by a bunch of other dudes out here, or the babe is getting railed by another guy that did not give squat. Okay? So therein lies the problem. So now that I've stated the problem of why a lot of younger, or at least a lot of young Kenyan men, or even just a lot of Kenyan men in general, seem to be quite unromantic, is there a solution to this issue? Well, to be very honest, I honestly don't know. Like, I'll be quite honest with you, and I'll use this as a conclusion. I don't know if we can really fix the current situation as is, because this problem started because some women, if not a lot of women, started giving it up a little too easily to other guys that weren't giving shit, while expecting other people, of which some of them were even their partners, to do the most for them to give it up. And as such, a lot of men have been detuned to the idea of partnership because it just doesn't seem like it has any more pros as opposed to the mountain of cons that could be coming with it. So essentially, it's quite a hard thing to do. But, and I mean absolutely but, hypothetically speaking, if we were to try and fix this issue, we'd have to start by making romantic and or loving men great again. And by romantic and loving, I'm talking about the guys that will be simping for you and really, really doing the most. Not necessarily, buying you a bouquet of flowers every day, because, like, not everyone can afford to do that all the time. But essentially the guy that does the most to be with you. The guy that puts in effort, the guy that actually puts effort into showing romance to you. You make those guys great again, then a lot of this delusional cynicism might actually start to die down. And if we are a little bit more loud about the romantic and loving men being the better option for a lot more women, then you might actually find that a lot of these guys might actually change their tactics, because clearly getting it for free isn't going to work. Although, then again, I could be wrong about this entire thing and a little bit delulu myself, so I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the Breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the Breaktime Podcast. On X, it is at BagakaTheD. And on Bluesky, it is at the BreaktimePod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.